Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this, which is going to be a very interesting webinar running over a 2-hour period, where we'll be looking at a whole variety of subject areas that are on offer within the MH101 Arts degree from the Faculty of Arts. We'll be joined by various people for this session. And just to initially introduce you to my colleagues from the Admissions Office, we have Fionnuala Finnegan, our Schools Liaison Officer within the Admissions Office, and our colleague Deirdre Carroll, who looks after the whole area of media and communications. So that's who you'll be hearing from. You'll be hearing from us off and on. And we also are joined this morning by another colleague from the university, by Rose Ryan. And Rose works with our students on a continuous basis, working in the whole area of academic and programme advisory areas, which they find very, very useful and hugely supportive. So without further ado, I will stop speaking now, and it's my happy task to introduce the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Professor Colin Graham.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. My name is Colin Graham, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Celtic Studies and Philosophy. To give it its full title, being Dean means that I have a kind of overview of all the academic departments that you're going to hear from in the webinar this morning. So in this morning's session, my colleagues from around the faculty will be talking to you about the various subjects that we offer at degree level. As some of you will already know, because you'll have done your research, the majority of those subjects are available inside the BA Arts degree. We also in the faculty offer specialist degrees in media studies and in music, and you may hear about those this morning as well. The faculty that I'm Dean of, the Faculty of Arts, we pride ourselves on the quality of the teaching that we provide. We have a really good understanding of the transition that's involved in moving into university level study. We know that it's really rewarding, can also be really challenging, particularly at the beginning. It involves sometimes taking on new subjects or taking on subjects that you know from leaving cert or from your previous study, but having to think about those in a different way. There are great rewards in that, but there are also some difficulties. And I know that my colleagues across the faculty will give you the best support and guide you through your studies with understanding and with care, and that they'll allow you to flourish and to challenge yourself. Everyone in the faculty is committed to giving you the best quality teaching and support for you as you move through your years of study. It may be worth saying a little bit, particularly about the BA Arts degree. I'm sure you've already thought about it, read about it, and you'll hear about it as we go on. But particularly for first year, maybe as you listen to the subjects outlined in the webinar today, it's worth thinking about the way that the first year of the BA Arts degree is structured. You choose 4 subjects in your first year, and you can do that in a different set of combinations. So for some subjects, you can take a double subjects like English and history, for example, in our faculty. You can take English twice as a double subject plus 2 others. That doesn't mean you're doing the same thing twice. It means you're doing an additional bit of English or history, which allows you to think about that subject in more depth. The point about the BA Arts degree is that really the choices are yours. You make choice about what you're interested in studying, what kind of things might be of interest and use to you in the future. We'd encourage you to think about trying subjects that you haven't done before, combining that with things that you're comfortable with, something that will push you a little bit, something that you're good at, something that you're interested in. So you'll find in our subjects outlined today that there are languages, and it's possible to take languages, as we would say, ab initio, which means from the beginning, so you can take up a language that you haven't taken up before. There are subjects that you wouldn't have studied at school or in access courses like ancient classics and philosophy, which are foundational to what we all are as human beings. And this is your chance to try those out, especially in first year, when you have this 4 subject choice, to try one of those subjects that you've never come across before. And my colleague, Lizzie Boyle, after Dr. Sinead Kennedy in English, will be talking about one of those subjects, which is early Irish. So we'd encourage you to think about combining those subjects, the choices that you make, into things that you know you're able to do, you know you're good at, along with things which will push you and challenge you and will give you a wider view on the world, and allow you then going into second and third year to think about the more serious choices you'll make about your final degree subjects. You'll also know that as part of the BA Arts degree, The university offers critical skills as a subject, and not something to give serious consideration to. It's a subject which is specifically aimed at allowing you to make that really challenging transition into university level studies, so that we actually focus on the kinds of thinking, the kinds of skills, the kind of study methods that you need in order to succeed at university. So you should give serious consideration to that as a subject. But fundamental to the BA Arts degree is choice. It's really about you making a choice about the things that you're interested in, the future that you want to have as a student and beyond being a student. And the final thing I'll say about the subjects that you'll hear about today is when we have our on-campus open days, one of the most common questions and the most logical questions that we get asked is, what does this subject lead to? If I study this subject, what will I do afterwards? Which might be boiled down to the question of, why should I do an arts degree? There are lots of reasons for doing an arts degree. People worry about employability, understandably, in the current world that we live in. An arts degree can equip you with very specific skills if you have a specific end in mind. You may want to study a language so that you can go and work in that country. You may want to teach in the subject that you're studying. There are lots of specific skills that you can take out of the subjects that we offer. Media studies, for example, you may see a career for yourself in the media industry. But much more important is that studying these subjects that you're about to hear about will give you a set of skills which will stand over you for life and will make you immensely employable and immensely attractive to employers, because you will leave with the ability to think, to analyze, to research, to compile information, and to communicate that information. And that, we find, is what employers primarily are looking for these days. They're looking for thinking, articulate, intelligent, and caring individuals who are able to fit into the workplace, to adapt, and to think for themselves. And those are the things that you will gain from an arts degree. So I'm going to hand back now, I think, to Kay, who's going to introduce the first speaker.
Thanks very much indeed. And next we have a speaker from the Department of English, Dr. Sinead Kennedy. So you're very welcome to Sinead, and thank you very much for attending today's session.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen because I've got a short presentation here. Is that okay? Great. So thanks very much, and we're delighted that you could come along today. Unfortunately, we don't get to do this in person this year, but we do hope that we'll be welcoming many of you on campus to Maynooth University in September. So as Kay said, my name is Sinead Kennedy, and I teach in the English department at Maynooth University. I'm also the first year coordinator. So if you decide to do English next year, we will be working closely together. So what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about studying English at university, a little bit about the first year course, and if you continue on, some of the things that you can hope to learn here at Maynooth English. So in the English department here in Maynooth, we have a very diverse student body. We have a lot of people who come directly from the Leaving Cert, but we also have a very strong mature student group. There's a lot of diversity among our student intake, and it's something that we're very proud of, and that we value the diverse contributions that students from all sorts of backgrounds make to our department. And I think that's also reflected in the types of things the specialisms in our department. There's a wide range of specialisms, an interest in world literature, in Arab and African writing in particular, an interest in feminism, political criticisms like Marxism and psychoanalysis. We are currently developing our creative writing program in Maynooth. So there's a lot of different ways into studying English. But one of the things, I suppose, beginning in first year that we're most conscious of is that studying English at university is a little bit different, perhaps, to how you're used to studying English at the Leaving Cert, or even if you just have a kind of a broad interest in English. So we, one of the things that we try to do is to encourage you to kind of broaden your understanding of the various texts that you're looking at. So we look at texts across all different types of literary form, from things you're familiar with, like the novel, a play, some poetry, but we also look at life writing, we look at film, we look at creative nonfiction, all sorts of different types of writing forms. And we encourage you to understand how those texts are culturally constructed in terms of time and place and tradition. In other words, that how we read a particular text, a novel or a poem in 21st century Ireland is very different, perhaps, to how people might read it in other parts of the world, or how people may have read it in the 18th century or the 15th century. So we're interested in thinking about how texts themselves are part of our cultural constructions. We'll also give you, I suppose, the skills that you need to read those texts. So things like close reading, analytical skills. We'll also introduce you to things like literary theory, which are like different lenses, different ways of reading the same text. So one of the things that we try to do is to encourage you to move away from the idea of a text having a single meaning. In other words, a novel is about this and it can't be about anything else. So we encourage you to open up the text and to see that how there are many different ways of reading a novel, sometimes complementary, sometimes conflicting, and that there's no single way, no right way, in other words, to read a text. There are two options to studying English at Maynooth, as Colin already alluded to. You can study English as a single subject, where you take 15 credits, or you can choose English as a double subject, where you take 30 credits. All students, whether they're taking single or double, follow the same, take two core modules, one in the first semester and one in the second semester. And then if you do double English, you do two additional modules. So if you do double English, you do different modules in addition to the core ones. And one of the things that we do in those foundational modules, the one in the first semester and the second semester, is you'll have common lectures in which you'll all be together. We usually have a fairly large intake of about 300 students. So one of the things that we put a lot of emphasis on is small group teaching, or tutorials. So you'll have 2 tutorials per week in which you'll work in small groups. You'll get to know more people, you'll form a relationship with your tutor, and you'll get to kind of dig into the complexities of the text and develop your own particular skills. We'll teach you how to write an essay, how to do a close reading. There on front of you are some of the texts that you will look at over the course of your time with us in first year. And then just very quickly, if you decide to continue on to study English in second and third year, there are a variety of different ways to do that, but you'll study a whole range of different types of literature. Literatures of place, which looks at writing from different parts of the world. You'll look at very early modern writing in English. You'll look at modernism. We have specialisms in American literature, in African women's writing and the diaspora. There's a growing interest in environmental or eco-criticism in the department. There's also specialisms in Shakespeare and global Arab migrant writing. And there's also a very strong interest in Irish writing as well. And as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the things that we're very keen to develop is the creative writing. There will be a new appointment this year in creative writing in the department, and we work very closely with the writers in residence in the university. So if there's something that you're interested in developing your creative skills, there's a lot of space to do that. So I'll stop there. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A, and I'd be very happy to answer them. And I hope to see many of you in person in the autumn next year. Thanks very much for listening.
Much indeed, Sinead, that was excellent, and I'm sure everybody enjoyed that. And again, if anybody has any queries or questions, do pop them into the question and answer session there in the Q&A box, and we will endeavour to reply in a timely manner to you. And you're welcome, Dr. Boyle. I see you have joined us here. And our next speaker is Dr. Elizabeth Boyle. Elizabeth is going to talk you through the world of medieval and Celtic studies. She's going to introduce you to that area. It's one of our many subjects in the arts degree. I'll hand over to you there, Elizabeth. How are things? Are you able to share your screen there if you're sharing anything?
Yeah, I'm going to try and share my screen. Sorry, my laptop has been a bit slow.
That's quite all right. It's the scariest thing anybody has to do these days when you send out that invitation. And now I'll share my screen. We've all been there.
Yeah, okay, sorry. It's just being slow, but here we go. Hopefully I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see that okay?
Yes, there's something happening here.
Excellent. Okay, so I am here to talk to you about medieval Celtic studies, and hopefully if I can...
Yes, we can see it on our end here now, Elizabeth. If can you see it yet?
Okay. Is that moving on? Are the slides moving on?
It's not yet. Have you gone into presentation mode? We're just seeing it in kind of outline mode at the moment.
Sorry, well, I hope you can all hear me anyway. I'm just going to talk. I'm not able to see even my own slides. So anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit about the degree in medieval Celtic studies, which is an interdisciplinary degree here in Maynooth, where we look at the history and literature and language and culture of the Celtic speaking world, so Ireland, and pre-modern Wales, Cornwall, Brittany, continental Europe, the parts of Europe that spoke Celtic-speaking Celtic languages, and the popularity of this kind of subject is perhaps best exemplified in the very recent computer game Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which brings together actually very nicely all of the elements of our medieval Celtic studies degree, because it deals with Viking Age history, which is one of the elements that you can study in our degree program. Along with Celtic languages, literature, and culture. So ours is a very, as I say, interdisciplinary degree, and it's a completely option-driven degree. So if your interest is in, say, for example, the history of, say, Viking Age Ireland, you can take history options. If your interest is in literature, for example, the stories of Cuchulainn and Maeve and all the kind of characters of early Irish mythology, then you can take literature-driven options. If you're interested in language and learning, for example, the Old Irish language, that is the form of Irish that was spoken more than 1,000 years ago, or indeed if your interest is in Middle Welsh, that's the form of Welsh that was spoken 1,000 years ago, then you can take language options. And if you're interested in material culture and archaeology, then you can take archaeology options. So as I say, it's an entirely option-driven degree where you can pursue your own interests, and none of the elements are obligatory. You can absolutely sort of plow your own path. And our graduates go on into a whole kind of range of different careers. A lot of them are interested in history and culture, and therefore they often go into the cultural heritage and tourism spheres. But if your interests are, for example, in teaching, it's a very good option to take alongside history or English or Nua Gaeilge. If you're interested in going into kind of civil service and other kind of professions, then it's also a very good degree for that because of its interdisciplinarity and because you can be trained in a whole kind of range of different disciplines. So our graduates, as I say, have gone on to sort of careers in everything ranging from museum work and cultural heritage and tourism work through into teaching and also into academic research. But I was wanting to open with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla option, because a lot of our graduates have also gone into kind of historical consultancy for computer games, video games. One of my own colleagues here was recently a consultant for Civilization 6. So that's clearly another popular option for our graduates. And the world of digitization and the kind of online world has been another kind of great career path for our graduates, because surprisingly, perhaps, a degree in medieval Celtic studies opens up a world of kind of manuscript digitization and online projects to bring the kind of pre-modern world and pre-modern culture into the digital age. So that's another kind of avenue that people have pursued. I'd say that our department is a very international, very diverse department. A lot of my colleagues have trained at universities kind of all over the world, and our students have the option to study abroad. You can take the study abroad option and go to Celtic studies departments, for example, in continental Europe. The subject combines very well with other languages as well, if you're interested in taking that option. And we're a very kind of friendly and open department. We have a very large number of mature students taking our subject, and we're very, I think, friendly and open and accessible to people from a kind of wide range of different backgrounds and with different interests. We try to take advantage of the fact that we're also living within the landscape of the history that we study in the department, in the form of going on field trips and actually visiting the places that we're studying. Obviously, COVID has made that slightly more difficult, but if you're interested in actually kind of studying places, you know, in person in the landscape, then that's an option that's available to you as well. So as I say, medieval Celtic studies is a truly kind of interdisciplinary subject. If you're interested in the pre-modern past, in how we came to be, how we are today, if you're interested in the early history of Ireland, in the culture of Ireland, in its language and its literature and its material culture, then we are, you know, an ideal subject. And as I say, we pair very well with Nua Gaeilge history and English, but students also often take us alongside anthropology, for example, and other kind of subjects that are interested in humanity and how we came to be the people that we are today. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I think also my colleague, Professor David Stifter, is available to answer questions on the other online format. But I think, yeah, I'll leave it there because I don't want to take up beyond my allotted time. I'm sorry about my technology fail. I did have great slides for you, but I think hopefully I've given you kind of an overview there of what we're about. So,
Thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth Boyle. We do appreciate you attending because I know you're busy doing lots of other things today. So thank you for your time. I know we have been joined by Dr. Dimna McLaughlin. Before we go to you, Dimna, I know Sinead from English just wants to answer a query there that came in live and we just couldn't type the answer there to it. So Sinead, do you want to pop on for a moment there and just answer that query live while before Dr. McLaughlin starts?
Sorry, I was actually typing the answer. I figured out.
Apologies.
So I'll type the answer and let you keep going to the schedule.
That's perfect. Thanks very much.
Sorry,
indeed.
thanks very much.
That. Okay, sorry for delaying you there, Dr. McLaughlin. I apologise for that. It's Kay Mitchell here. It's my happy task to introduce you to our attendees at the moment, who Dr. McLaughlin actually works in the whole area of history, our modern history department in Maynooth University as part of the arts degree. So you're very welcome, Dr. McLaughlin. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here today to hopefully introduce a whole new group to the study of history. So like my colleagues before, I'm so sorry we haven't got a chance to do this in person and to meet you all. So I'm going to start by also trying the technology for screen share. If it won't share, I'm just going to talk through it, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see I'm going to have a problem with that. Okay, I'm just going to leave that, but I'll leave the slides. So if you go into the history department, you'll be able to find it. So history is, in my opinion, a very good subject to study at university level. So you don't need to have done history before to study history with us. So it's a very broad program. In first year, we sort of focus on it's very broad range in sort of early Irish history, the Vikings, and then as you go into second year, you have lots more options. It flows out into a whole range of areas. You could look at, I lecture on the history of medicine, Irish social history, somebody talking about, say, Georgian Britain, slavery, the Arab world, Britain and America in the 18th and 19th century. So you have a choice once you get over first year to actually specialise in a particular area that you're interested in yourself. So some of the issues that have come up in recent time for us historians, as well as the breadth of our subject, is how we approach our subject. So that is how who writes history? And oftentimes in the past, history is written from the point of view of elites, whether they're, colonial elites or social or political elites. So how do we represent the history of ordinary people? So it's something that we've all been thinking about, like how you approach sources to represent the history of ordinary people, and also to, that they have an active role in history. For example, in looking at things like the famine, that you start seeing, well, what was the famine what was the experience of famine from the point of view of ordinary people who lived through it? How do we get their sources? How do we represent their history as active agents in their own lives and in their own decision making? So that is, I suppose, a big issue. We're always thinking about, being inclusive, as my other colleague mentioned in English, being inclusive, looking at diverse experiences, and that nobody owns history. We all bring something different to history based on what we're interested in our past and what we want to look at in the future. So history graduates go into a broad range of fields. Mostly, I must say, it is teaching, a lot into library studies, some into research, a lot into the corporate world, which seems to value history graduates. So it does offer a broad range of critical skills. And usually history graduates have an ability, like we all want of our students, to think for themselves, to think critically about texts, to think critically about the context in which some of these texts were produced. So there's a broad range of options for students. So you can do history as an undergraduate, like I said, without having done history before, and you can either do it as a single major or as a double major. So they're all different options. And we also have, as well as our big group classes, we also have small group teaching and small group tutorials, which we would have weekly, where you would interact on a one-to-one basis, which are peers, but also with tutors and lecturers to look at texts and to try and deconstruct them and talk about them, talk about the context in which they were produced and things like that. So I have to say, as somebody lecturing in history for a long time, it is just a fantastic subject to study. It's ever changing, and we just love the energy of new people coming in with different experiences, different perspectives. So it's a really good subject to study either on its own or to study with other subjects as part of your university education. So thank you for that. I'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, Dr. McLaughlin, and we do appreciate your input. And actually, you have a question here in the Q&A box, if you're able to see it. Somebody is interested in talking to you about the options in first year. So thank you very much for that presentation. Okay. Now, it's my happy task. We're moving on, and we're moving on to the Department of Music. So it's a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Antonio Cascelli. So you're very welcome, Dr. Cascelli. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such a pleasure. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, we can hear you.
Just wasn't sure. So yes, I'm delighted to be talking a little bit about music and what, as prospective students, you might expect once you come here to Manu to study music. And I would like to answer three basic questions. Why study music? What music programs are available here at Manu? And what will I study? The answer to the first question, why study music, is very simple. We all love music. We are passionate about music. And if you decide to study music at university level, it's a way for you to bring your passion for music at that level, at the next step higher. Just to give you an example, I started studying music when I was 89 years old, taking piano lessons in Italy. My accent clearly betrays that I'm not an English native speaker. I'm not from Ireland, but I love Ireland very much. So I started when I was 89 years old, and here I am. Who knows, maybe if among you there is the next head of the music department for the next, in the next 20 years, who knows. So study music, it's a way to really dig deeper into your passion for music. And how can music be studied at Maynooth? What programs are available? Music is part both of the BA, and as such, you can combine music with up to 3 other subjects, for 4 subjects in total. So you take 15 credits in year 1 in music, and then 3 other subjects of 15 credits each. You can even decide to take music as double subject, still part of the BA degree. So you take 30 credits in music. Then you have music as part of the BMAS program. So you focus exclusively in music. You start with 2 subjects in year 1, 45 credits in music and 15 in another subject. And then you continue with music in year 2 and in year 3. And going back a step to the BA, once you continue with music in year 2 and in year 3, you take 30 credits in both years. But we also have music technology, which is an absolutely fascinating opportunity, which is a separate subject which you can combine with music in the BA program. But if you decide also to take the BMAS program, there will be some music technology modules included in this program. So a rich and varied set of opportunities to study music here at Maynooth. And what will I study? In terms of music genres, we cover all the music genres that I'm sure you're all passionate about, from jazz music to pop and rock music to Irish traditional music to classical music. And there are modules in which we are talking about Beyoncé, modules where we are talking about Denise Chila, but also modules where we are talking about Chopin and Beethoven. So a wide range of music genre to be included in the program. Whether you do the BA, BMAS, it doesn't matter. This wide range of, excuse me, this wide range of music are covered in all our programs. So music from the 21st century to even back as the 16th century. And music will be studied in many different ways. We will be looking at the history of music. We will be looking at harmony. What are the basic components of a song? How come that a song by Beyoncé is so effective? And we look at how the harmony of that song is built to create those effective emotions, very powerful emotions that we always go through when we listen to music. Orchestration is another topic that is covered in the various programs. Musicology, I know it's a word new to many of you, but it's nothing to scare. Musicology is a way of studying music to try to understand how music shapes the cultural debates of our days. We learn from the past, we learn from how music shaped cultural debates in the past, gender issues, political issues, even race issues. And we see what can we learn from these issues in the past and the way the music in the past shaped these aspects. We learn from this and we see how music these days, today's, November 2021, at the end, hopefully very soon, at the end of a pandemic here. So we can use music to understand our society, our culture today. Performance is a very important component of music. If you come to Maynooth, you will have the opportunities to study your instrument with a tutor here in the department, paid by the department. It might be necessary to pass a particular test in an audition, but for those of you who already have grade 6 in piano, grade 6 in voice, grade 6 in violin, grade 6 in keyboard, pop, rock music, you will have the chance to study this instrument, to continue study with instrument with a tutor here in the department. Composition is, of course, another important subject. Sound design, if you take music technology, we'll be looking at sound design, sound engineering, music and film, all very important topics if you are interested, for example, in finding a job in the music technology industry, but also in Google, in the film industry, and so on. Last, I would like to say a few words about what kind of skills, therefore, you will be gaining by taking music at a higher level. You will gain, of course, a set of transferable skills. I'm sure you have heard these words so many times, but it's very important to keep reminding ourselves what these transferable skills can be and what are the skills that you can get here in music. Communication and effective expression, creativity, the ability to think with a clear sense of imagination. These are skills that will be accompanying you for the rest of your life, whatever work environment you will find yourself, whether you will be able to continue working in the music environment or whether you will go into a different career, arts administration. At the moment, we have a former student who is working with the administration teams of Irish National Opera and so on. So a very incredible set of transferable skills that will accompany you for the rest of your life. So I think I said what I wanted to say about music. I'm here, of course, to answer questions, and so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Caskelly. And in actual fact, there is a question sitting in there in the Q&A section that if we'd be delighted if you would address now that you have finished presenting. Thank you very much for all of that.
Perfect.
So it's thank you very much. And thank you very much, Professor Pramaggiore. I see you have joined us from the area of media studies. So you're very welcome to the session, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kay. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Maria Pramaggiore. I'm professor in media studies. I'm going to now attempt to share my screen here. Let's see if I can get into this. So I'm delighted to be here to talk to you about media studies and how you would proceed on that pathway in Maynooth. We have two ways of doing that, and that's why this slide lists media studies and media and cultural studies, and I will explain that in a moment. But first of all, I just wanted to give you a sense of who we are, who you'll be studying with and working with for 3 years or 4 years if you do the BA International. We are a group of teachers, researchers, and creative practitioners, and everything that we do in our creative work and in our research informs what we do in our teaching practice as well. I wanted to give you a sense of the scope and the diversity of the areas that our department colleagues, my department colleagues, work on, because it reflects the diversity of the field. Media studies is a very big area. So you can see work that has come out in recently published books and articles by my colleagues: racism and free speech, gender and media work, digital poetry, women in film and television industry, race and gender and celebrity culture, animation, early Irish cinema. What this tells, what this hopefully will tell you is that studying media means studying texts, films, radio, TikTok, Twitter, but it also means studying the way media pervades our daily environment. It even tells us who we are in certain ways. It is also a very specific industry sector that interacts with government and culture in very important ways, and the economy. For example, how were the media used to disseminate information about COVID-19 in the pandemic times? How do we gather news and information from media? Do we have particular favorite areas like celebrities that we love or fandoms that we belong to? I'm teaching in the first year module next spring, and I'm going to be spending a week on Free Britney and trying to understand what that is all about. But the sense of media as a global entity and global practices that affect us all are what you will acquire from studying with us. So what is media studies at Maynooth? What happens in each year of the degree? What's in the media and cultural studies subject, that is in the first arts degree, and what do our graduates do when they finish? So in the MH109, that is media studies. That is a degree that is a double subject. So you take this and one other subject, and you engage in both critical thinking, looking at media texts, audiences, and industries, and practice of creative storytelling. So producing documentaries, producing screenplays, engaging in screen design, multi-camera production, and short film projects. In the first year of media studies, the critical thinking aspect of the curriculum asks all of these questions I think I've been alluding to. What is media? How do we engage with them? How do we perform research on the media? Whose stories get told? What forms are used? Is it film? Is it radio? How do they operate differently? How do old and new media combine? And how do specific mediums and platforms work? Obviously, we all know there's incredibly important developments happening in social media sort of every day. One day it's Facebook, and now it's calling itself Meta. Why? What does that mean? How does that affect us? In the creative side of the curriculum in first year media studies, you acquire skills to create and critique content for contemporary screens. Also engage in a documentary production project. You generate your idea, conduct research, and film and edit a short documentary. In the second year, again, the two streams of critical theory, where you engage in media research projects, learn about the relationship between media and gender, media and politics. You can take courses in options in modules in coding and advertising, and continuing on with creative production. There's where you write a short screenplay, engage in an interactive storytelling project that's an online digital project, and learn multi-camera production, which is very much professional television studio production. And in third year, global cinema, social media, podcasting, fans and fandom, film and authorship, as well as the creative practice are really sort of capstone portfolio projects that you produce in third year. So as I said, there are two different pathways that you might choose. The first option is what I've just outlined, the media studies degree. That's 3 years. It combines with one other art subject, and you balance creative work and critical studies. Some of the other subjects our students study are listed here: politics, Gaelga, English, computer science, marketing. So there's a variety of subjects that you might pair with that curriculum. The media and cultural studies subject is within the first arts degree. So that can combine with up to 3 other subjects, because in the arts degree, you can take up to 4 subjects overall. And students take the critical studies parts of our curriculum. What skills you will leave our program having developed are critical thinking and developing arguments, actually listening to and understanding what is being said and addressing arguments. That is something that's a little too scarce, I would say, in our current environment. Oral and written communication, presentations, essay writing, creative making. You've done some things. You leave with a portfolio, digital storytelling, and teamwork and project management, which is an inevitable part of the assessments that we ask our students to do. Our graduates work across the board. There are graduates working very specifically in media industry jobs, in digital journalism, in film and television, and charity and NGO work, but also in any industry that uses media, which, as we know, is every industry. Any industry that wants digital marketing campaigns, that wants to reach an audience on social media, that wants to create an eye-catching video that will go out in the cinemas when we can return to the cinemas, or go out on TikTok to market their particular product or service. Students go on to further study in journalism, film, and we also offer a master's program in critical and creative media that, again, brings together making media creatively and critiquing and understanding the way media operate in our lives. So how to learn more and to get in touch with us, you can visit our webpage. You can contact our head of department directly, Dr. Ann O'Brien. You can follow us on Twitter. Of course, we have to have a presence in social media as the Media Studies Department. I'll stop sharing now and look for the Q&A with some questions. I'm seeing questions about music. So currently, I don't see questions for me about media studies, but I will wait for several minutes and answer those if they come in. Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to share our programs.
Thank you so much, Professor Pramaggiore. I think there are one or two in the Q&A for you, and there's definitely one in the hosts and panelists there, if you can see that. So thanks again, that was really, really interesting. I'm delighted now to introduce you to Professor Philip Roseman, who's going to give you a chat about all things philosophy from the BA Arts degree.
Yes, indeed. Look, many, many thanks for introducing me. I'm happy to be here in this virtual way. Greetings to everyone out there who is watching and who is interested in Maynooth University and perhaps even in philosophy. So let me talk a little bit about what philosophy is and why one may wish to study it. You know, if you are in touch a little bit with current affairs, whether it's on your mobile phone or you're reading a traditional newspaper or whatever access you have to news, there's a lot of talk about unprecedented challenges that we're facing. Now, I'm not big into cliches. I mean, unprecedented, you know, human beings before our current generation had problems to deal with, including wars and stuff like that. So not sure it's completely unprecedented, but certainly we are facing challenges. You know, we're all a little bit desperate at this point about COVID and wearing masks and getting booster shots and not being able to travel to certain places or having to quarantine when we come, etc. Another big challenge that's constantly being discussed in the media concerns, of course, climate change, which entails the need to rebuild our entire economy, not only in Ireland, but throughout the world, on more environmentally friendly principles. But the question, of course, is, will that work? I mean, simply, for example, switching to electric cars, is that going to solve the problem? Where's all the power going to come from to, you know, to power up those cars? We were also witnessing political upheaval, which indicates, well, that, you know, these problems are beginning to have political repercussions of a quite serious nature. The Brits have already left the European Union, which, you know, appears to become a bit unstable. We're seeing also that the United States, which is this leading nation supposed to provide orientation for Western democracies, is facing very serious political instability. So it's very easy, even for an older person like myself, to feel overwhelmed given all these challenges. And it certainly would be understandable if a young person who's looking forward to you know, a bright future and a life of relative stability feels overwhelmed by these challenges. It would be completely understandable. I can imagine three responses. One would be to seek happiness simply in the private realm, to dream of, you know, a nice partner, a nice house, a nice car, some nice things, regular holidays in Spain. Okay, nothing really wrong with that. Okay. Second possible response is a political one, So it goes beyond the individual realm. So, one tries to keep up with the challenges. If you look at the Irish government, for example, you will find that it's encouraging new technologies and that it's attempting to build the country around the need to remain competitive in the global market. This approach is also a necessary one, but it does entail a certain breathlessness because one is never done with the challenges. There's also always another wave of COVID. There's always another wave of technological innovation. So that's why politics tends to have this kind of breathless quality to it, which of course then reflects back on the lives of individual people who live in that society. The third response is a philosophical one. The philosopher will try to lead a relatively nice personal life, and will also be engaged in, will have to live in a society and perhaps make a contribution to political discussions. But the philosopher will also want to ask fundamental questions that actually clarify and underlie these challenges about which I was trying to speak. Fundamental questions which haven't changed all that much, even since, the ancient Greeks started philosophizing in the Western world. There are other philosophical traditions like Chinese or African, but in Western philosophy, the whole thing started about 2,500 years ago among the Greeks, who asked things such as, what does it even mean to be human? Not so much what is it that distinguishes us from animals, but what is the purpose of a human existence? What are we supposed to be accomplishing in this life? Is it material comfort, or is it, perhaps the contribution to the society? But what is it? What is it all about? It's a question that should be asked before, or in order to clarify some of these other issues that I was trying to talk about. It's also not unimportant to ask oneself the question what happiness actually is. If one is trying to accomplish some type of happiness in one's life, what is it even? What does it consist in? What is a properly human happiness? Why is there so much evil? I mean, there's a lot of evil out there in the world. Wars being waged, people being killed, people being tortured, all kinds of horrible stuff. Why do human beings do that to each other? So not a question to be neglected. And perhaps one may even want to ask if there is a God out there who is ultimately in charge of all this, or are we on our own? The answer to that is also not insignificant for the kind of life we want to lead and even political or social decisions. So that's a little bit what philosophy is trying to do. It asks these fundamental questions which have remained relatively stable among all the changes that humanity has seen since the Neanderthals left those graffiti in the caves. What is the method that philosophers use in order to approach these questions? Well, they read texts by the great philosophers who have been acknowledged generation after generation to have contributed significantly to conversation about these issues. These texts are usually not easy to read, which means they require interpretation. Because they're not easy to read, they require interpretation that is led by someone who has already led them, who has already read them, that is to say, a lecturer or a professor. And then, of course, the texts may be very interesting, but that they're interesting doesn't mean they're true. They require discussion and critical examination. So that's a further step. Further, of course, you will want to reflect in a more formal way on what you have learned, and therefore write essays. I mean, of course, in pretty much all the humanities subjects, you can expect to write a lot of essays. So in that regard, philosophy is not different. So what have you then acquired after 3 years of studying philosophy in Maynooth? Well, essentially, you've learned how to think philosophically. You have gotten yourselves into a philosophical habit, which perhaps you're going to carry with you throughout your life. That is to say, you're going to be then a person who doesn't just do X, work in that bank, or produce that movie, or run that farm, but someone who asks him or herself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Ought I be doing it exactly the way I'm doing it? What ultimately am I trying to accomplish in my life? What is a good society? And how can I, with my farm or with the movie that I'm producing, contribute to the kind of society in which human beings can actually flourish? That's philosophical thinking. Philosophy, like most subjects in the arts faculty, cannot be studied on its own in Maynooth. So in other words, it's not a single major subject, but is combined with another subject. That is actually an advantage in that philosophy is not very practical, giving you particular skills that immediately sell you to a prospective employer in the job market. Therefore, it's very useful to combine philosophy, and required in Maynooth, to combine philosophy with business, to combine it with media studies, to combine it with economics, to combine it, etc., 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 computer science. Because then you can practice, let's say, the computer science or the business or whatever it may be, but practice it at a deeper level, asking perhaps questions that others who have not studied philosophy are not able to ask. Finally, how do we approach this in terms of modules? Well, there's an introductory year. I teach a general introduction to philosophy. Then we focus on modules that introduce you to the history of Western philosophy, which we cover comprehensively, taking you from antiquity to the present day in philosophy. And then, of course, there are modules that are more topically oriented, teaching you in topics that range from anthropology, what does it mean to be human, to digital ethics. I think I don't have to explain that. What are the ethical questions and implications of this kind of digital society in which we live? One of my colleagues teaches women philosophers in order to make sure that it's not just the middle-aged white men who talk to you about philosophy, but a slightly more diverse group, and so forth. So should you be interested in asking further questions, you are very welcome, first of all, of course, to check out our website, but also to email me. I'm very happy to receive your emails. My email is philip.roseman@mu.ie, but you have to probably check on the internet first how that is spelled, because if you spell it just the regular English way, the email will bounce back, since I'm German and you have to spell the name slightly differently. So that's my little introduction. I hope you've learned something about philosophy.
You certainly have. Thank you so much. That was very, very thought-provoking. And I could see a couple of questions in for you there, Philip, in the Q&A box just at the bottom.
Is it the Q&A box or is it the chat box?
This is the Q&A box, I believe.
Okay, I'll devote myself then. I'll shut myself off here and I'll devote myself to the questions.
Please do. That would be excellent.
That's
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just before we move on to the ancient classics with Dr. Casetta Cadeau, and I hope I'm not butchering your name. I do apologize sincerely if I am. A little question has popped in there for Maria Pramaggiore, and she has hit that she would like to answer that live. Now, that might be a mistake, but if you want to just unmute your mic there.
Thanks very much. It was a mistake, and then I was unable to answer the question by typing. So I would like to say the question was about graphic design in media studies. Yes, the answer is yes, we do offer graphic design training, particularly in first year with the screen design. But that is part of our program. And one of my colleagues, in fact, specializes in animation and wrote a book that just came out on Islamic calligraphy in time-based media, in other words, in motion media. So a lot of expertise on that in our faculty. Thanks very much, Fionnuala, for saving me on that one.
No problem at all. And just FYI, folks, because I know you're doing such a Trojan work there in the background answering questions. If it does happen that you hit answer live by accident, if you just go into answered, the questions will pop back up again for you. So without further ado, I am delighted to introduce you to Dr. Casetta Cadeau, who's going to talk to you about the ancient classics as a subject within our arts degree.
Hello, hello everybody. I'm going to just start sharing my screen. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Great. So you should see the slides now.
Yes, we can see them here now.
Okay.
They're just in outline mode. It's perfect. No, they're perfect now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Great. Just one second. Yes, my surname is Casetta Cadeau, so that's okay. Not too different. It's okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome everybody who's listening in and just watching this live webinar. I'm delighted to introduce you to my subject, my passion, my vocation, my everything in my life, which is the classics. I just have a couple of slides to basically have a chat with you and introduce you to the subject, and hopefully by the end of it, you will be inspired and you will love it a little bit, at least. First of all, what is classics? Not everybody knows what that is. It's a word that we use very broadly to study the civilizations of ancient Greece and Rome in all their aspects, but that goes beyond that, because primarily we study the separate Greek and Roman civilizations. But in the background, the following are also important, and they get some attention in our courses as well. So we also study the Egyptians, Persian, Etruscan, the Hebrew, the Germanic, and the Celtic societies, because there was somebody else before the Greeks. We study mostly Greek and Roman civilization in all their aspects. That includes languages, literature, history, philosophy, art, and archaeology as well. Traditionally, when we hear the study of Greek and the classics in particular, anybody thinks, you're only looking at the Greek and Latin language and literature. But more recently, there has been a great flourishing of courses on Greek and Roman civilization, in which the literature is actually studied in translation. And the consideration is given to also non-literary achievements of the ancient Mediterranean world, such as its art, architecture, and society. And this allows people who don't necessarily want to learn the ancient languages to actually learn about the civilization. So it makes the subject accessible to anybody, very much anybody. The nature of our studies is interdisciplinary, involves history and literature, but also, as Professor Rosman just said very wisely before me, a healthy dose of philosophy, politics, religion, the visual arts, and also geography. So in the first year in classics and also in the subsequent years, classics makes an excellent and natural combination with other subjects, for example, anthropology, English, history, law, philosophy, as well as business and the science subjects. So Greek and Roman civilization fits into the group 6 in arts and can be taken with any subject in the other groups, in the groups 1 to 5. So what will you study when you're in classes? So I know there is a presentation you can look at in the open the website, but I just want to give you a flavor of what will you actually be doing on first year and in the subsequent years as well, with not too much detail, just to give you an idea of what kind of subjects and skills in particular will you learn. So the ancient Mediterranean world remains a fascinating and rewarding subject of study and a source of inspiration for anybody who studies classics. And you have a lot of reception and ideas, even in the 21st century, that derive from classics. At Minute, in first year's modules, we aim to introduce you to the most important aspects of the separate civilizations of Greece and Rome, and to give you an interdisciplinary overview of their history, literature, politics, cultural values, and continuing importance as well. So the Greek world is introduced in the semester 1 in the first year, where you will study one big year-long module in which you will study the 2 civilizations, one in each term. So the Greek world in the first term and the Roman world in the term 2. And both modules carry 7.5 credits and are composed by 30 lectures, along with also a healthy number of tutorials in which we'll have a chance to compare and confront your ideas with fellow students. The Greek module introduces you to the fascinating world of ancient Greece. So we're gonna begin with learning about mythology, literature, politics, history, and art. In the first part, we focus normally on mythology, so the Greek gods and the heroes, while in the second half, we turn to the history and cultural politics of the equally influential classical period. So we're gonna study militaristic Sparta and democratic Athens, with its rich social, literary, and artistic culture. We study how Athens and Sparta allied to help defeat the vast Persian Empire in key battles such as Marathon, which are well known to everybody, but we more importantly learn about their significance and the growth of the Athenian Empire during the time of Pericles. We then continue on to learn about the career and the consequences of the empire of Alexander the Great and the enduring myth of Greek liberty. In the second half of the module, we learn about Rome, Now, Rome began as a small city on 7 hills, but over centuries expanded to become a very large empire, which occupied the majority of the Mediterranean and beyond. In the first half, we look at the history of Roman Republic, which was very powerful and long established, and represents the foundations of our political world today. We then learn why did it fail. We focus on understanding how such a powerful state collapsed. In the final century of the Roman Republic, we saw the rise of popular politics, political infighting, war, feuds, riots, and much of it related to first-hand accounts of the generation who lived through it. So we'll tackle most important questions, such as how was Caesar greeted when he returned from Gaul, who was Cleopatra, why does Cicero matter? And all of these personalities are fascinating and contributed to the making and unmaking of Rome. The study of the Roman Republic resonates powerfully even today. If we think about the Irish Republic, the European Union, the US Federal Republic, as well as the Republic of Star Wars and its degeneration into an evil empire, it's a returning cycle. The ancient Roman Republic was also a sophisticated society with a culture which still resonates today. Its political fortunes were shaped by colossal figures such as Julius Caesar, Cicero, Augustus. But it was not just an arena for political debate. So in the second half of this module, we'll also look at the civilization of the Romans and at the people of Rome, men and women, children, slaves, senators. What was it like to be Roman? How did the Romans dress? Where did they live? Which gods did they worship? How did they think as Romans? We attempt to answer all these questions, and we look at diverse topics such as retail, luxury, morality, art and architecture, and also big issues such as gender, identity, and morality. And these are all relevant topics even today. In the second and third year modules, we look at more thematic content that focuses on the most important aspect of the two separate civilizations. So you get an overview of their history and continuing importance from all different points of view. So you have a selection here of various modules. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of these, not all of them. And I'm going to pick power and people in Imperial Rome. In this module, we study the Roman Empire and how it reaches great extents in the first and second century AD. And it extended from Syria to Spain, from Scotland to the Sahara Desert. This module focuses on the nature of Roman government and society in the imperial period, but we also look at how Roman power and authority exercised its influence over this vast space. We also learn concepts of imperialism and Romanization. And we use a wide range of sources that allows to learn and identify the exercise of social, economic, and political power at multiple levels of Roman society, even in the farthest reaches of the Roman world. Another module that you will study, and this is in year 3, is ancient legislation. And this is a new entry in our curriculum, and it started this semester. So it is a year-long concept where in the first semester you will learn about Greek and political theory, and in the second semester you learn about Roman law and society. So in the Greek part, you will focus on classical Athens and the development of a body of law from its distinctively democratic system. We will learn about individual topics that will be approached primarily through the lens of selected Attic court speeches. And all of this, by the way, it's all in English translation. In the second semester, you progress to the study of Roman law and society, where we will introduce you to a full range of legal practices developed by Roman lawyers between the Republican and the late imperial period. Roman legislation matters today. It studies in conjunction with its impact on society. And the readings that we will have focus on case studies that expose Roman culture and its responses to political upheaval. Roman sources show popular characters such as Cicero engaged tirelessly with late Republican political violence in the law courts. By the 2nd century AD, Rome had grown to become an immense empire, as I said, and continued to exercise a strong influence on the legislation of many Western countries and their colonies. I'm thinking of particularly France, Italy, and Germany today. So this module will look at how laws concerning the statutes of people, criminal laws, succession laws, and law of property and obligation. These are just some of the examples of the modules that you will learn in second and third year. But we also teach languages. You can learn Greek and Latin, two of the oldest and most original languages in Europe, as separate subjects in first year, and also you can also pick them up in following years. Now, why learn Latin and Greek? If you take the introductory first year language, you will begin by reading Homer's Odyssey and the tragedies of Euripides. Now, Greek is a beautiful language, and I have to admit I'm very biased. It's the language of Homer, Plato, the New Testament, and the legacy is all around us. You just have to think about the greatest Greek invention, freedom of speech and democracy, to make sense for you to learn Greek. Greek laid the foundation of European culture. And to study the language, therefore, is not just to study a dead language, but it opens a window onto an impressively rich period of human history, one that continues to resonate with us today. So you will learn the textual evidence from an invaluable past. Latin is the language of European law, politics, learning, and for 2000 years, well into the modern world, is admired and is the great training of the mind in logic and conciseness. So basically, when you learn Greek or Latin at Minut, you will learn an invaluable skill set, and you will be empowered to confidently approach the study of other ancient or modern languages, and that includes English too. So ultimately, learning Greek or Latin will make you a more aware and articulate English speaker and a more polished writer in English, which means you can build stronger arguments, and that will be second nature to you, and you will write better essays, but also you will be a better writer in the future. So let's talk a little bit about the skills that you will acquire with a classics degree, or as I prefer to put it, what can a degree in classics do for you? What can it give you? So first thing I would like to tell you is the classics is not a vocational line of study. So we're not learning classes to become classicist only. You're learning a discipline, and that gives you content and information, of course, but you also learn skills, which are what will stand you in a solid position for a very broad range of jobs. Now, some skills such as accountancy, for instance, may become redundant in time, but the skills that you learn through a degree in classics, such as problem solving, communication skills, analysis, and research, they will never become redundant, and you will need them anywhere you go. In our fast-changing world, few degrees are directly applicable to one's profession, and so increasingly employers look for graduates who are flexible, creative, open-minded, critically aware, and articulate. Many of these qualities are fostered by studying classics. You will acquire a deep understanding of factors that shape societies and a well-formed awareness of others' viewpoints and cultural identity. And this is very important because you can do anything with this. You will be an ideal candidate and a valuable asset to a broad and diverse range of professional fields. I'm thinking human resources, recruitment agencies, membership organizations, governmental organizations, civil service, the legal services, advertising, and creative agencies. The graduates in classics graduates learn how to structure and manage their time, how to prioritize. They are self-motivated. Through result-focused and creative assessments, such as literature review and independent essay writing, you will learn to motivate yourself and to source information and use resources, archives, and libraries, but also databases independently. And that includes the ability to drive and focus on self-led research. You make your own job, you make your own research. You will acquire reading skills, critical thinking. You will be able to approach evidence critically and analyze and evaluate information, case studies, papers. You will acquire the ability to think differently, to an exposure to interdisciplinary subjects, think outside the box. You will know how to present, and you will leave Minut being a seasoned scholar who is able to confront him or herself with others and peers in conferences, but also in a team, in a corporation, for example. Your communication skills as well. You will be articulate in your written and oral format. Delivering papers will be something you will be very comfortable with, so public speaking as well. You will know how to articulate your view and how to confront yourself with others through group activities and projects. So in a word, is a classics degree worthwhile? Absolutely yes. It is both useful and profitable because you will go on to do any type of job, but it will also bring to your life happiness. It will enrich your life and will teach you how to approach bigger questions in a structured and critical way. For more information, as usual, I have a slide here with the possibilities that you can look up for combination. And there is also a final list with our contacts. But just as my predecessor here, Professor Rosman, I will encourage you to also drop an email to myself. You will find me in the People's page in the Ancients Classic department. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely excellent. And I know that there are some questions in the Q&A box for you, Cosetta, if you'd like to approach those, that would be most helpful indeed. Thank you so much. I'm delighted now to introduce you to Professor Ruth Whelan from the French department, another fabulous subject on offer to you within the arts degree.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here to give you a very quick presentation on the opportunities the university offers to you for the study of French. Studying a language at university is a means of opening doors in your life. And, you know, many years ago, I started where you were, which is with a leaving certificate and hope in my heart. And I can say that studying French changed my life beyond recognition and beyond even the hope that I had when I started to study French at college. I have put up a few slides here. I'm sorry.
We can see those, yep. Take your time.
I'm trying to get the slideshow to work. Here we go. There we go. Now, we have here a whole set of the exciting cultural icons that you will discover as you delve into French. You recognize the Eiffel Tower, the Gilets jaunes destroying the Champs-Élysées during the year, Notre-Dame de Paris, which is both a novel and, of course, the cathedral. Art, Edith Piaf, the Tour de France, fashion, food, and my favorite in the middle, the fable of La Fontaine, Le Lièvre et la Tortue. Why do I put that up? Well, I teach La Fontaine's fables, but also because learning a language is a bit like being a tortoise. You have to put in the slow, steady work. But as in the fable, the race is not always to the swift. It's the tortoise who wins out in the end. And I think you'll see why in a minute as I take you through my slides. We have a small and friendly department where it's easy to get to know your classmates. I'm just trying to move this out of the way. We have over 200 students and 7 teaching staff with a balance between native and non-native speakers. We do offer, you know, it's called French studies, but we do offer a broad range of courses, and in some ways, a bit like classics, as my colleague was explaining, a much broader range of courses than many larger departments, because French studies covers both the country, its culture, its literature, its cinema, as well as the language. Well, why would you study French? Well, as I just said, you know, it changed my life. So you become a different person when you study a language. You study a language and it means you can engage with other cultures. It changes the way you view the world. You get to live in another country. You can speak to other people in their own language. And the richness of that, it supercharges your brain. Multilingualism, according to the theorist, makes your brain work faster and gives you better multitasking abilities. You also, in the course of your studies, get an opportunity to spend a year abroad, either working or studying in another country. And I'll come to that in a minute. First of all, why would you study French? Because it's hard work, but it's so much fun. Languages at university are fun to learn. There's lots of contact time face-to-face in small classes with native and non-native speakers of the language. You get to know your classmates really well, and you make friends for life because you get to know them through your studies. You enjoy stimulating, active and interactive classes, and we're here to help you so you get the opportunity to get to know us well and have our support as you move out from your studies into the world. Well, why French? Well, French is a language spoken widely in the world, obviously in France, in Switzerland, in Luxembourg, in areas of North America, and of course, widely spoken in Africa. One of our current students is studying French with international development and is looking forward to working in Africa. One of last year's graduates is working in Luxembourg. A graduate from some years ago is working in Toulouse. So it opens up the doors of your life into other countries and other ways of life. So it's an official language in many countries, but also in many international organizations alongside English. And of course, France, the country, as you study with us, the country you will come to love, I hope, as much as I do. It has a colorful history, vibrant cultural traditions, and is an economic powerhouse, despite the demonstrations that occur practically every Saturday with people complaining that it's not and that they're not getting enough out of the country. It is a vibrant economy and a vibrant culture. So why, what happens afterwards? Well, jobs, language skills are amongst the biggest skills shortage in Ireland today. There are 4,500 empty jobs in Ireland for language graduates. Large multinational firms all want excellent language graduates, and French is the most sought after language in Ireland. There are presently 161 vacancies. In a survey that was done for foreign languages, in a market survey where companies were asked what languages they wanted in their companies, you see that French is up there at the top with German. And my next slide will give you an idea of the companies who have employed our graduates. And you can see just how many different ones there are: Jemison, Twitter, Wayfair, Microsoft, Hertz, HP, Intel, European Union. One of the graduates who's working in Luxembourg is working for a law firm. The graduate working in Toulouse is a HR specialist who is sent in to sort out problems in companies. So there are lots of opportunities and a huge demand for French in the workplace. While French is part of the Bachelor of Arts degree, you can also take it with international finance and economics. Years 1 and 2 are spent in Maynooth. A third is spent in a French-speaking country. You can Belgium, Switzerland, but most people go to France. Year 4 is spent in Maynooth, and of course you can also take it with law. This information is available elsewhere. So you can combine it with all of these subjects, with geography, German, law, mathematics, international development, technology, Gaelic, music, sociology, Spanish. I'll let you read those, and critical skills, which is a useful option in the first year for students. What do you need to study French? You need a H4 entry. Our first year, you will study the language and the culture. In years 2 and 4, you study French language with electives in French and Francophone culture, literature, society, politics, translation, and the course preparing you for the year abroad in year 2, crossing boundaries. fables, philosophy, society, theatre, poetry, Quebec migrant writing, French women's writing, Huguenots. We offer you a very broad and interesting curriculum from which you choose. First year French is 4 hours of language, reading, writing, speaking, listening in small groups of up to 20, and a large group lecture where we introduce you to some of the literature and culture. And critical skills involves academic writing, managing information, communication and presentation skills, constructing persuasive arguments verbally and in writing. Obviously, it's a way of helping you to learn. Now, we also have this integrated year abroad, and you can study abroad if you're studying, French or German or Spanish. You will spend the year abroad in those countries. As I said already, most of our students spend the year in France, but some go to Belgium, some go to Switzerland. We had one student who went to Quebec for the year. Anywhere where French is spoken as the everyday language, you may spend your year abroad if we have connections with the universities there. It's a wonderful opportunity. People come back transformed by this year and what they've learned and what they've become throughout the year. So, you study at a Francophone university, part of your BA International. You can also teach English in a school. We have a scheme run with the French Embassy for language assistance, either in a French school or for BA students, or you can teach English in a language school, or obviously you can find work through your own contacts or through your embassy. Obviously, when you're here in college, you have opportunities to join the French Society. There are debating cups and quizzes, film nights. Obviously, COVID has severely restricted the activities, but we're hoping that by the time you come, you'll be able to engage in these School of Languages Ball conversations in a tandem with French Erasmus students on campus. And then some of the people who have spent the year abroad offer advice to others going out there as part of a leadership development program. This is our graduate in Toulouse, who is a consultant occupational psychologist and works in the clinical psychology sector. So I have finished this very brief whistle-stop tour. I'm available to answer questions. You can see images here from our beautiful campus, and I am able to answer questions, or you can email them to frenchsec@mu.ie, and we will do our best to help you in whatever way we can. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Professor Ruth Whelan. And there are a good few questions for you there, Ruth, in the Q&A box, just at the center of your screen down at the bottom there. Also, it might be a nice time to mention the brand new Business and Languages degree at Maynooth, MH409, where you don't have to have either business or languages in your Leaving Cert to study on it. You can take beginner's business and beginner's languages, French, German, Spanish, and Chinese studies. So I have attached the link there, and I'm just going to press send. Delighted now.
I forgot to say that, that we take your entry requirements are H4, but you can also start French from scratch with us. And there are entry requirements, obviously.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. Delighted now to welcome Dr. Jeff Morrison from the German department, who is going to chat to you about German.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but all I can see at the moment is Ruth's screen.
Ah, yes. Ruth, would you mind unsharing?
Oh, beg your pardon.
No problem at all.
I do that. Where am I? Stop it? No, not stop video.
That's it. Brilliant. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hello.
We can hear you well. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now, yes. How are you?
Fantastic. Sorry. You are perfectly good to go ahead, Dr. Jeff Morrison, and talk to us about all things German related. We're
I will
attentively listening.
Oh, really? I trust you. Folks, when I was asked to do this, I thought that you'd offered me mission impossible. Sell German studies in 5 minutes. But I realized when I started thinking about things that, to be honest, it's the easiest job I've ever had, really. The real question is, why would you not be doing German, I think? German in Maynooth, I think on the whole, a good experience. We offer a kind of rich experience for students. But I want to start with the thing that other people have emphasized, which is the bigger picture. A lot of people like to know, so what the hell are they going to do with German? And that's a question, rather like Ruth just suggested for French. It's a question we can answer very, very positively. It's perhaps unsurprising that German studies has really good outcomes in terms of employment. There are at any point hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs available for people with German in Ireland, as well as many jobs in Germany for people who have the language skills at a high level. And it's not just the basic kind of language skills that the people are looking for. I think we produce graduates who have the written and spoken communication skills, which enable them to really find places in all sorts of companies and institutions. So there's a very positive vision there, or long-term outcome. But I kind of hope, as someone who has to teach you guys, that your interest is a bit deeper than that. And I hope you're interested not just in the place, Germany, Austria, these German-speaking countries, but you have a sense that the German-speaking countries have a really rich culture, have made massive contributions to, I suppose, the intellectual life of the world. And whether it's German music, German literature, German philosophy, German psychology, there are so many aspects to this culture. And we like to think we can give you a chance to experience at least some of them. Ours is quite a rounded course. German courses tend to fall into categories. Some emphasize language, some emphasize culture. We do a bit of both, and I think we do it quite well. I'm not going to sell the first year course as sexy. The German first year course is essentially a language course, and that's to deal with a complexity. We teach beginners German. We teach people who did very, very well in the Leaving Cert and people who did less well in the Leaving Cert. And hope is that we can, by the end of first year, get people into a broadly similar place so that we can then offer them a richer deal from second year onwards. And the nice thing, I think, about our course structures is the fact that you can emphasize those things that you like. So rather like in French and in Spanish and probably all subjects, there are a whole variety of options available. Ours fall into two basic categories. Some are essentially linguistic, so people who study aspects of language, and then others are essentially more broadly cultural, literary, film, that kind of thing. And people typically shape the degree that they want. You have some people who shop around, they try a bit of everything. They like a bit of film and they like a bit of literature and they like a bit of theoretical linguistics. But many people actually develop very clear preferences, and what they do is move in a particular direction. So they become, after or during and then after their second year, they become primarily linguists or primarily cultural studies people. So it's a nice possibility that you can build your degree. And even though we're not a big staff, we manage to offer options in an enormously wide range of areas. So I can speak from the bit of German that I do mostly, which is literature. We offer everything from medieval literature to contemporary women's writing, and pretty much everything in between in a given year. And I think that gives people some nice choices. So I think it's a good idea that you can build your own degree and emphasize those things that you really want to do. As Ruth did before, I must emphasize the value of the year abroad. I was year abroad coordinator for donkey's years, and you'd occasionally get students who didn't want to go abroad, and I never quite understood it, frankly. I thought they bewildered, because you're sitting in front of them saying, sorry, you're trying to make a choice here between the plains of Kildare and Vienna, between Maynooth and Berlin. Is there really a choice here? You know, they're very exciting places to go. And I would encourage, we don't make people go, but we very, very strongly encourage people to go abroad. And as Ruth has said before me, people come back transformed. And I think that's a great thing. Most of our people who go abroad on the Erasmus scheme, go to one of our many partner universities in North, South Germany, Austria. And if they don't do that, they go largely on teaching assistantships, which is a great thing for people who are thinking in terms of teaching as a future career. I personally found as a teaching assistant that spending the time in company of 13-year-old boys was enough to convince me never to become a school teacher. But other people have much more positive experiences of that and much more positive motivation. But what we offer is a nice rounded degree with a variety of directions possible, with a lot of small group teaching, I think native and non-native speakers. It's a pretty good deal, and it would be great if you would join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Jeff Morrison. I think there could be a couple of questions for you in the Q&A, or perhaps they might have been answered. But if you wouldn't mind hanging on just for a few minutes in case there might be a few coming in for you there, that would be great. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Delighted now to introduce you to Dr. David Garcia Leon, who will chat to you about the Spanish as a subject within the arts. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. It's great to have you here. And I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'm going to be talking why it's so important to enroll in our program, in the Spanish program. So I believe you're watching my screen right now.
Brilliant, thank you.
Perfect. So my presentation is going to be divided in these items: why to study Spanish at the youth university, the two roads that we have for students that are completely beginners and those who already have some knowledge of Spanish. I'm going also to describe some of the module choices that you will have when you join our program, the course structure for the different years, and the year abroad is something that my colleagues have already mentioned, and it's very important to emphasize. So it's important for you to know that studying Spanish at the university gives you a great opportunity to interact with around 500 million speakers worldwide. So Spanish is a truly global language, spoken in Latin America, of course, spoken in Spain, but also in Africa, and of course in the United States. It's a language that is constantly increasing, and so it gives you the opportunity to interact with a numerous amount of speakers. Also in Maynooth, what we offer is a course, two roads, one that is open for absolute beginners and one for those with a living certification in Spanish. We additionally have a wide range of optional modules in, for example, Spanish and Latin American literature and culture, translation, linguistics, and cinema. So you will be engaging with different topics, not only about the Spanish language, but also with the culture of the Spanish language. One important aspect in the Spanish section is that we also offer the opportunity to learn Portuguese and Catalan when you are in your second year in the program. And of course, the opportunity to live and spend a year abroad in Spain or Latin America. Our graduates have taken career opportunities in different sectors, for example, education, business, in the European civil service, and international development. So as I mentioned, there are two roads, one for beginners, for students that do not have any knowledge of the Spanish language, and another one for the non-beginners. So for example, courses such as SPN 151 and 152, it's for non-beginners, and it will be concentrating on learning and acquiring the knowledge towards the Spanish language. And courses such as SBA 1.1 and SBA 1.1.2, it's for students who have a minimum of H4 in the living certificate in Spanish. That's what we recommend. However, if you have a previous knowledge in Spanish and you can demonstrate that you have the knowledge, you are more than welcome to enjoy our program. And please let us know that you have any knowledge. So as I mentioned, these both programs, the beginners and non-beginners, which take place in first year, concentrate on grammar and language labs and conversations. So for example, for the modules that are for students who have not studied Spanish previously, we have 5 hours of language, 1 hour of conversation class per week, and 1 lab class. So as you can see, it's to concentrate and focus on the development of the Spanish language. While the courses that we offer for students that took the living certificate in Spanish or have some knowledge of the Spanish language, we have 3 hours of language, 1 hour, 1 conversation class per week, and 1 lab class per week. Now, when moving to the second and the final year. So in the second year, the students will continue strengthening their linguistic skills, continue studying the Spanish language, but they will also have a very wide optional small courses or optional modules, for example, Spanish and Latin American literature, linguistics, Catalan, and Portuguese. In the year 3, students usually spend the year abroad in a Spanish-speaking country, either Latin America or Spain. I will talk a little bit more about later. And in year 4, students will also will continue enhancing their language skills, and will have other optional modules, for example, in linguistics, in Latin American literature, culture, etc. Now, in terms of the year abroad, so the students will have 2 schemes. The first scheme during the 3rd year is the scheme which is managed by the European Union, which is the Erasmus scheme. So the students will be placed in different parts of Spain, such as, for example, Barcelona, Salamanca, Valladolid, Granada, Oviedo. And if they are also interested in going to Latin America, they can also go to 2 places, Guadalajara with the University of Guadalajara, or in Montevideo. And the second scheme is to work as English language assistants in primary or secondary schools in Spain. This is run by the Department of Education and Skills. And the advantage of this program is that the students will receive a salary that will help them cover the needs that they will have working in Spain. If you have further questions, please let me know. We're more than happy to have you in our program. And remember, Spanish is a language, a very powerful language, and with a rich culture, and we will be more than glad to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Let me just have a little quick look in the, yes, there is a question in there for you. So I am delighted now to introduce you to Dr. Yinya Liu, who is going to do a short presentation on Chinese studies at Maynooth University.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello,
sorry,
everyone.
yes, we can hear you. It's a little faint.
Okay, so maybe I don't use the headphone. So can you hear me clearer now?
Yeah, it might have been better with your headphones.
I think maybe the headphones.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, maybe also the internet is.
Very good.
Okay, so I can share my screen now. Can you see the slides?
Inya, I think that your headphones aren't connected. If you just go over to the microphone and the little arrow beside that, you can select which microphone to use. And that might help everyone hear you just very well and clearly.
Hello, can you hear me again?
Amazing. I think that's it.
Okay.
Woo!
Can you see the screen as well?
Oh. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, so I can start the presentation now. Okay. And 你好, hello everyone. So I would like to introduce Chinese studies, and then in these slides and or in this presentation, you will see what is Chinese studies and why we choose Chinese studies as a major or a minor in Humanities University, and some details or information about our program. And then Chinese studies today. And in this subject or major, you can learn both modern and traditional perspective of Chinese studies, because previously Chinese studies in a very special term called sinology, and then this term, the content of this term focused on Chinese philosophy, religion, and culture and language. But nowadays, we also will focus on Chinese economy in the modern perspective, politics, society, and international relationships. And why we choose Chinese studies, and we can quote Jack Welch, the former chairman and CEO of GE company. And we suggest, of course, nowadays students can choose some science subject like biology and information technology, but he also will suggest they can learn everything they can about China, because it will permeate every aspect of business in their lifetimes. So this gives a very insightful information. But when we choose a subject or a major, we also will think about what we can do after we graduate. And then here are also some information about jobs and opportunities. So we can see Mandarin Chinese is the most spoken language in the world, and China is the second biggest economy in the world. And China is also the world's biggest manufacturer and also has the world's biggest consumers. So there is a very big market over there. And then you also can find several very famous in dairy industry or alcohol industry. And they already set main branches, Irish companies set main branches, company inside mainland China. And some Chinese technology or IT company also set headquarters in Ireland. So after you graduate, you can either study you can either work in China and for Irish company, also work for Chinese company in Ireland. So this would be, there will be a lot of opportunity for the student to choose. And then now we can move on Chinese studies and arts subject in Humanities University. So we already have our 3 colleagues in other 4 subjects, French and German and Spanish. So Chinese is one of this big family. So we are also in one school of modern language, literature, and cultures. So students can take Chinese studies either in the 3-year BA degrees as a major subject, or the 4-year BA international with the 3rd year spent at one of the Humanities Universities, partner universities in Beijing, the northern part of China, Shanghai, the eastern part of China, Chengdu, the middle part of China, and Xiamen, the southern part of China. So you can explore different parts of China because it is a big country with different dialects and culture and food as well. And students will graduate with a BA degree or a BA international if they spend a year studying abroad. And the program is for beginners. No prior knowledge for Chinese is required. And in 1st year, students take Chinese studies with other subjects. In 2nd and 3rd year, Chinese studies can be carried on as joint honors as a minor subject in certain degree programs. And here are some information about our courses. So in all years of the program, Chinese language Mandarin, one of the questions from the Q&A session already asked, and we also can provide Cantonese language because I'm Cantonese, so I can offer this module as an elective module for students. But all the Mandarin Chinese is compulsory. And the emphasis in 1st year is on building up students' language skills. And in 2nd and 3rd year, they delve deeper into the study of various aspects of Chinese history, politics, culture, philosophy, and economy. And so 1st year, we need 15 credits, but for the 2nd year, we will offer 30 credits. So we both offer language modules, Mandarin Chinese level 3 and level 4. And we also offer very inspiring and interesting content modules like comparing China and the West, television, film, and media in China, Chinese social theories, and gender, class, and society in Chinese societies. And for the student who just would like to have a taste of Mandarin Chinese but don't need a degree in Chinese, we also offer beginning Chinese for second-year students as an elective modules for beginners. So you just spend 1 year in learning Chinese language, and then you can learn how to use some basic daily Chinese language in our daily life. So this also will be very useful and helpful. And for the third year, and during the year abroad, and then still if student would like to choose to be a BA International, so they will take 1 year intensive training in Chinese language and communication skills in our partner university in mainland China. And the practical demands of living in a foreign country are immeasurably beneficial in terms of personal development. And then we also receive a lot of positive feedback from our previous students. And for final year, after they travel back to China, and we will continue to offer language modules and as well as a content module focused on translation skills, and also will provide a group project, research-based project dissertation for CM322A. And here are the webpage of our partner universities in mainland China, and most of them are top university in mainland China. And then there will be one concern about whether the Chinese language will be very difficult because it is not the same like the other European language, just with the spelling, and then we can speak, because we also have a pronunciation system, but as well as the writing system. So I just provide 2 slides to explain very, very briefly about this concern, because this will be a challenge, but this also will be the most interesting part about this language. So but you can see Pinyin system is romanization of Mandarin Chinese is a standard system, and then it looks quite like English or other European language. We have the initials, it actually looks like English, but with different pronunciation. So like Morpho for the first line, and in English is BPMF. So you can find the similarities, but we also have the finals, also sounds quite like AOEI, but in Pinyin system is ROE, so we also can find the similarities. And then the most beautiful part is about the tones. So there are 4 tones in Mandarin Chinese. Is first tone R, second tone R, third tone R, the final tone R. So you just can imagine it's just like singing. So don't worry too much about these tones. So for example, like these 2 words in blue color is Ni Hao. So it's just to say hi in Mandarin Chinese. So from the spelling, you also can pronounce Ni Hao, so there will be not that difficult. And then here are the writing Chinese characters. So Chinese characters are pictures. So from these 3 pictures, you can imagine their meanings. The first is sun, the second is moon, and the third with the flowing water is water. So, and then nowadays, in order to put them into a printing form, and then we change all of this character into a square form, so it will be easier for printing. And then here are all the information. If you need further information, you can send email to us, and you also can ask the questions in our Q&A sessions. So thank you very much for your listening.
Wow, thank you so much, Inya. That was so interesting. I feel like I even learned so much there. Thank you so much for that. So I've kind of jumped in now again. My name is Deirdre Carroll, and I'm in the admissions office too. So before I go over to our Meet the Student session at 1:15, we're going to change the session up a little bit. Agus how much can learn trí gaeilge for a second. Agus is mór another dom sib a current Anna an tullab trína ní hiacán atá mar ceanna leis an níl gaeilge an so nó scoil bháúd. So nuir tá tú ré trína.
Bíle má go dhéirte agus tá sé go hálan bheit caiinteat mar sin díireach túair second bhain dom agus tá chun na sleáinaá gom a roiint níis le go chéine mar sin second bhain inis. Sasúlan go na bro sé se dom cear go leor.
I know, it's an fear tá na gcónaí.
Okay, so Humanities na bro sé seo na bhain.
Tá sé sin fuorfa?
Okay, well sin íon chéad chéim nach tá sé sin fad agus díide chun ráúir bhí sé go húntaach agus go híhanna bheit géisteach le go chéan den eile ar maidin agus go híhan. So tugann sé blaisiad a bhíh léon don severas úntaach atá i man nuad péiscéal é agus is tucha go béim rád a ddéirhann se le miléin ath cuioine bhar ghail in dhéanamh ná. Go bhfuil manúad speisialta, mar go mbíonn idir nuálacht agus éireacht go hanaláidir ann. Sé sin tá annacháil ar roiine nua ghaalaine in manúad maidir le rudaí nuatha a churchan cín, ach ag an am géanana tá stair ad a hefir a buint leis an ghaalainn in ollscoil bhanúad, agus tá síom labhairt bagáin riall lei sin inis inmh. Mar sin an chéadrad ná, má han tú cuioineh ar ghaalainn a dhéanamh an chóirle a chuireann ort go macáint ná Dinné. Ní bheith go brach á féalart gur thugas fan ghaalainn a dhéanamh sa chláiste, mar is a doras isteach go dain nua í an ghaalainn, agus bhhailm leir beáin riall sin libh in nómh. Mar sin mar atá rágam, má dhéananta sa ghaalainn in san ollscoil, is seans agus deis úntach í seo. Tuaid fan ghaalainn, máisteacht omláin, chiríoch nuail a háilte ar an ghaalainn, agus seasaigh an ghaalainn bit do héal ar fad. Ach níos múna san, túair ghaalainn sás of persanta agus féin tuiscint deit chomá, agus jo tú tuiscint chain ar a saoil agus ar a gultúr, jo tú skillanna in eistrithe is focail chasta iad san ach sé de sprí le skillanna in eistrithe ná transferable skills, agus skillanna machnamh den sco, chomá le skillanna crothacha, creative skills, agus an rud le ddíirthe ná is le gach duine an ghaalainn, mar sin is cuma céan cúlra atá agat, is leats an ghaalainn agus bhráilinn go dúch fása chuingna, agus go mé fá fálam linne agus tám cinnte dearmh go méid daoine géisteach leis seo nuamh a chuirthaí go mór le saoil agus le dam na ghaalaine a machchan sa chomá. Mar sin an teachtareacht mhuara agam ná, cad é le bhecha dhéanamh agat le do héal péisceal é, agus mollam go láidir deit tuairt féin ghaalainn mar áir céime in ollscoil bhanúad. Mar sin láir mé lifanis beáín beag mar jaall cad a bheithar siúlagah in sa chéim agus cad a bhecha dhéanamh agaibh. Mar sin an cheadrad ná go méid deise agaibh ard skillanna tangan a orbert agus sibh in ollscoil bhanúad. Agus bíon timpplacht anna dhearafach fálama ann. Agus stocha go bé an puinte háanamh go an san ná, ní bháin go méid léchtúirí den scahagaibh agus teagascóirí den scahagaibh ach beag an timpplacht go hálainn. Bí an fuir an reine nua ghaalainn fial agus fáilach a gcónaí rimis na miléin, agus bíon siad sásta a gcónaí, bíon siad sásta cúnamh de gachsáis a chuir dóibh. A chumá le sin tá saoil na ghaalainn san ollscoil an bhríomhar ar fad agus bíon cumin ann, bíon ealaíontóirí agus áránathe agus dásóirí agus bíon sé go hálainn ar fad a bheith na measc súd. Chomá le sin rud speisialta a dhealann manúat amach ó áit meile beidir ná go gur míad na deisna takeíochta teangan don scothair fáil, agus is deisna iad sa a bhíon ar fáil las modas na gná rangana. Mar hampla, in sa chéad bhíon tá scéim fíor hacaíochta agus ciúlíonn sé sin a peer support scheme a dhíríonn ar chuirsaí teangan ar fáil agus an titil atá ar ná an drochad. Agus séir go hálíonn ansa ná má bhíon aon duine beidir is deachar beáin leis an ghaalainn in sa chéad bhíon má bhrahann siad go mbíonn gnéthe an deanga dechar dóibh, is féitló dul isteach go dtí an drochad agus cabhróid miléin eile ó bhblion chéime lo lena good fálama agus mar sin bíon na miléin a taú lena chéile agus mo chólachaí an dochtúir Tracy ní bhainnig a bhíon bhailir an scéim sin agus airíon go húntaach fad leis na miléin a bhíon a dul in le leis an rochad mar sin. Chomáile sin tá onad anhachtach in san áilscoil dar teidir lár onad na Gaeilge. Nis tá clú agus cáil lár onad na Gaeilge fuid a dain bhuaid, mar jaall na nuálachtaí tagisk agus fálamatha tugusteach go haar na blianta. Agus tá tálinne mar go mííon lár onad na Gaeilge anna lárnach ins na ceardlanna a chuirtir fáil in sa chiad bblion. A chomáile seo chuann siad clinicí gramadí fáil las mudas na rangana agus chuigáis dámach feibig mac léin na Gné áirithe an ramadach agus dá mar hadíist fiocht táim a buncansa agus tá cúna bh testáid ní bheitla déanamh ach bólisteach go dtíon blinig chramadí agus chuirfií takeíocht agus cúnamh dóibh. Chomáile sin bíon seisiúin fáil onas gur féidir le miléin taisteach an Gaelin láirtha agus gan dat an rud is táchtaí ó héamh láir na Gaeilge de má cleachta, mar sin critir na cóhéachs na deasa san goléir fáil a bhíon bagáí beg níos ré chuisí. Mar sin sleanán beg margheall cheardlanna na chiad bbliana chomá agus dá dugfáisteach ní sin sa chiad blion a míhhanóir se chuin bheit síléachta go an ag seachtainine agus an bheith ceardlan a bháinine go mar sin is rangan na bega iad sa bíon deisiúntaach agus na léin dulchan cín a dhéanamh agus bíon slipáin dúbailte có bíon béim an ggéil in náirtha agus scríofa agus measúnú leanúnach obair grúpa agus obair éanair agus mar sin de. Mar a bhí árágam tá an Gaelin san oscail haar bar fad cloise sibh Gaelin á labhairt go chutíanta an gampas agus beg áhas rinne fáile bhór a chur roimhse isteach in sa timpplacht san. Mar sin bíon choúd fáilteach agus spragú len, bíon taimhheíon na ceolalas áráníocht agus rud eile tágaine hospéisialta ná an scríóireacht chrahabach. Sé sin mátá síime gotsa bheitthe cepa dáanta nó scéalta be takeíocht fáil os na saineolathe tágain I rain na nuachhéildaine in sa réimse sin siad san an dochtúr caitnín na cíomhfuid agus an talamh fantán de brún. Nis capam go bhfuil mar ritheach a som hena fénig, mar sin ní deir mé mórrán mar geall dheis na fostíochta ach go bhfuil annach chuide go ann, cuasaí I dachas, eisteóireachta, agriíochtaí Gaeilge, puist stáid na meáin chumarsáide an airnáid éireachta agus choultúrtha agus gan dat cuasaí taide dóibh siúd go meach síimecha in le héid. Mar sin, fémar bhí árágam, an rád a hálíon nuair a dhéanaan tú céim sa Gaelin má go bhíon oscailt súl an a bhór gceist. Cad is bíle sin, it's an eye-opener nuair a dhéanaan tú staidéir an Gaelin. Mar nuantanga is se an Gaelin atá imil iarthar dain ach tá cultúr Harbheith sevis ag an Gaelin agus buinean úntaisí móra leis an dain san. So, an rád a déirhin na bíanamh ná, nuair a dhéanaan tú céim sa Gaelin, hí tú go muinean saolaíocht gan tóring leis an literíocht agus leis an tradiisiún béal agus le cultúr na Gaeilge go generalta. Agus in sa chéim a chuirmí ar fáil an oscail van nuat, bíon annach deisna an bhic lé, mar sin bíon an tradiisiún béal agus an áráníocht ann, bíon taimhheíonna ann, agus rud atá speisialta féin géim a gcuine ná go do go mí deistas na miléin tuaid fé rudí crothacha. We give students the opportunity to engage in creative practice. Chomá, rud atá nach chutíanta litríocht agus critic, scríóireacht chorthach, agus chomáile sin únta sé na seanna literíochta. Mar sin díocht tan chun cúpla saoanta beg a dhéirde agus an nula tásúla go náfuil me dul raigró ada agus mé a caiinteine sé go bhainte seo agus féad liberála má táime dul th ann. Tásúm díoch saoanta chuirtíh don dahan úntachsa atá le fáil sa Gaelin. So seo samplan is bich leanán a chud is féhráid an ranga mé féinnig an teachtain se caitú an teachtain riime sin. Agus seo sampla, ní lista go mar chola bhar trácht haris The Little Mermaid nuair a bhí bhar beag beidir go bhacha sibh an scanán san. Well seo samplan is den Severus a bhuiine na dahan na Gaeilge. In sa rang bhí mar a féchaint háin a chun nulaí hónal dar tedal an bhaid an bhara, ach bhí mar a féchaint chomá an seanna scéal béal idis. As a dáinnig an cín cheapsa margheall a meall an maidin bhara a hagan I níos a dalamh agus go gurtir íochailise marachtaint an dalamh chréim nuair gur a bhearla go mór fada a bheith fós sa bharige. Agus mar sin seochiad na rudaí a bheitá phléagaibh ó héamh na literíochta an dain saoilteach, the imaginative world go manúsach. No, níos déanaí sa chéim an son, deidir a gcónaí le daoineh go mbíon Leon the Lovskiveni Gael in a size Kasuda Indiana Jones, the other baited go bhfuil sean an isise bheit trochta Indiana Jones ach bhach sé daile le Lovskiveni agus bhí blachtarach da dhéanamh bige cilíonn blachtarach detective work. Well, jo sib se deis fála marall ar Lovskiveni na Gaeline agus mar chéan si an sa seo ábhar chuir mo chólachaí an dochtúir láraní bhláin ar fáil le déanaí go lochna tríú bliana agus fálamíon locht bbliana céime conas an clógéalach a léamh agus mar sinnde conas na méid speisialta a bhíon nach chuchan cín agus na scríomhathe a hiiscint chomá ar ríist an dain saoirteach dain lán de léchas cúcholinn fiún agus na fianna gach scléip agus na scéalta go húntaach ar fad. Mar sin le críocha chuir den chaint bheag agus gan pardún má chuas th ann. An puinte a hála déanamh gom ná hagan sibse go raine nógéalaine in manúd. Beg éagsúlacht úntaach agus a ráhanna úntaach andíh. Sa trí is go mé sibse go háide úntarna bliana raig an ná na modúlas ansalibh a ránú agus céim a hógant a éigh díobse. An rud eile dír hin ná tá annacháid a raine nógéalaine margheall aus an tagusk atá le fáid in sa rain agus tá na léachtóirí haar bar agus is sanolalathe amachchas amachiad agus tugann siad gachcúnamh agus gach takeíocht das na mic léin. Mar sin an rud a dedim liv ná tagaíg lin oscailí an doras agus búlí isteachúin agus Jóisih léargus agus rairc ar gáin úntaach ar fad a hasig díomh bhuair saoil ar fad. Más míon liv do le deag go bháilinn beag na fáiltí galróibh é sin a dhéanamh agus gur maithagah as bheith géisteach liom.
Gur a míle maithagat a Tracy, bhí sé sin súmú ar fad. My cúpla focal there, folks, and I'm so sorry for the pronunciation. The whole Irish is rustic. I lived in Italy for 10 years. Every time I go to say something, it's Italian and I have to force it back. So that was fantastic. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. We have a fabulous student here who wanted to really chat with students about her current experience that she's living as she's a student in the arts degree. So what I would suggest we do, and it's Alana Carroll, what I suggest we do, Alana, is to hop off here and we'll join Kay in the arts degree. And for anyone who might need that, link, I will just pop it into the chat here because it starts at 1:15. And there are 2 questions here, Tracy. Would you have maybe 2 minutes to answer those live? It might be quicker to answer them live.
I'll do
and
that.
then we'll hop off. Is that okay, Alana? Sorry, because I don't want to rush you. I think what you have to say is relevant, pertinent, sought after. So we'll move you over to 101. I've dropped the link in there. That starts at 1:15. So we'll get Tracy with the 2 questions and then I'll just end it all. So I hope it doesn't feel too truncated.
No problem at all. And Triana, sorry, I mentioned Tracy in my in my talk, but I'm Triana myself. So I'll answer those. So Fionnuala, if you're happy for me to do that. So on the first question is, would you have to have gone to a Gael school at primary school level or be a native Irish speaker to be able to do the Nua Gaeilge course? And the answer, thank you very much for that question. And the answer to that is no, not at all. We welcome people of all backgrounds, and the majority of people who are studying Irish with us in Maynooth are not native speakers, and the majority of people didn't attend a Gael school as well. So we welcome all students, whether some people might speak Irish at home, some people might be from the Gaeltacht, some people might have gone to a Gael school, some people will have gone to English medium schooling the whole way up, and they all do very well, and all of them are very welcome. Agus an son fuair is ceist eile isteach an son, má táint fu dírig eistúcháin dhéanamh bhfuil é rud eile de dhéanú tastáil. So an rud a bhhaimiis de chuoine bhíanamh má hasíimecha a gúsaí eistúcháin ná dúis duine tú bon chéim in sa Gaelin. Agus bhilhann se féin de chuoine an son íor chéim a dhéanamh a gúsaí eistúcháin go speisialta. Nis Jóisih anchuid skillan na táchtachas sa bon chéim sa Gaelin, agus an sinné bheith tastáil bhuait an son chun túirt fé íor chéim. Agus tá roiint fa fostíochta le fáil in éan agus an órap a bhain ina cuasaí eistúcháin chomá, mar sin tásúla go bhreagaíonn sé sin an cheist. Fionnuala, I hope that's okay. That was those
That's it.
questions.
Apologies. Thank you, Trina. No, that was amazing. Listen, folks, I'm going to end it here. So we have a quick time for a cuppa before we jump on to the 101. I've put the link there into the virtual open day. If you scroll down, I think it's halfway through the page, you'll find the talk for MH101, where Kay Mitchell, who was on with this previously, is just going to give a talk on the overview of the arts degree. So the structure of it, how all of these fabulous subjects work together and intertwine. And we'll also hear from Alana as well. So thank you so much to everyone who has remained for the 2 hours. It's been amazing and epic, and I've learned so much. So we do appreciate your time. And I hope to see you then over at the arts degree. Okay, see you in about 5 minutes. Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.